Hello friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Tanushri Bidre. Today I am going to explain manufacturing process of piston. I am SYB Tech student of Mechanical Engineering Department from Rajaram Bapu Institute of Technology, Rajaram Nagar. Manufacturing process of piston is our IC number second of subject manufacturing processes and machine tools. I completed this ISC under the guidance of Mr. A.B. Pawar sir. First we will start with introduction of piston. A piston is a component of reciprocating engine. It is a solid cylinder or disc that fits into a cylinder and moves back and forth under the pressure of fluid. As you can see in this piston and cylinder assembly, the moving element inside the cylinder is called as piston. We are using this piston and cylinder in many of the machines like reciprocating compressor IC engine. In IC engine we are using this piston and cylinder assembly to convert the chemical energy of fuel into mechanical energy. We are using this piston in IC engine to transfer fuel forces to crankshaft by using connecting rod. In short, the working cycle of piston in IC engine is like intake or suction of the fuel and air mixture, then compression of this mixture. After compression, ignition occurs, and due to this ignition, air and fuel gases expands, and after that, exhaust stroke. In this, fuel gases are exhaust. And the next part is parts of the piston. These are the basic parts related to piston assembly. The first, piston rings. These rings are fitted in the grooves provided on the piston blank. Then the connecting rod. This connecting rod is attached to the piston blank with the help of piston pin. About piston blank, the top surface of this piston is called as a crown of the piston, and the side which are attached to the cylinder is called as a skirt of the piston. Moving towards the manufacturing process, first step is design requirements. According to the which mechanical properties we require, we decide or consider the design requirements. In order to transmit high power output, the piston must be designed lightly and must be robust. They must be of higher strength material that can be withstand the high pressure that is being generated due to burning of air-fuel mixture within the cylinder. In this case, due to burning of fuel, high power is generated, and due to this there is high pressure and high temperature obtained inside the cylinder, and we have to design the piston to withstand under this high pressure and high temperature. The next step is material used. Most commonly used material for pistons are cast iron. The properties of cast iron are like it is hard, brittle, non-malleable, good in compressions. And aluminium. About aluminium, it has high operating temperature, outstanding corrosion resistance, very good strength and hardness. But there are some advantages of aluminium over cast iron, like it is light in weight, and the density of aluminium is one third than cast iron. It gives less vibration in high temperature. So we are using aluminium over cast iron most of the times. The standard material for piston is aluminium containing 12% of silicon and approximately 1% of each of copper, nickel and magnesium. The next part is manufacturing methods. There are various types of manufacturing methods, but according which properties we are required, we are using manufacturing processes. Like we are using casting and forging for manufacturing of piston. First we will see the manufacturing process of piston by using casting method. In this casting method there are various types of casting methods, but we are using gravity die casting process for piston manufacturing. Foundry is the beginning of piston manufacturing. Piston is manufactured by using gravity die casting process. The cast piston is molded from a molten metal aluminum alloy, which is drawn by vacuum into steel dies. As you can see in this picture, there is a fixed metal mold available for gravity die casting process. After then, we prepare the die of aluminium with heating up to 700 degrees Celsius, which is below the boiling point of aluminium. Then this molten aluminium is poured in this mold with the help of spoon. Then after then we have to allow some time for solidification of this casting. After some time we separate this mold into two parts like as shown in these figures, and separated the casting. And this casting contains some extra materials. This extra material is removed with help of hammer, and then after then we put this casting into the water for quenching process. Only minimum machining is necessary to finish the resulting piston, and the shape and wall thickness is fully controlled, but the process is expensive. Due to use of this casting process, we required minimum finishing processes, and the required shape and wall is also available. The next point is pin boring. The after quenching, we put casting on the lathe machine and fitted, and then cut, and then grooves are cut, and oil holes are also drilled. After then, gudgeon pin hole is drilled on the piston surface. Then this piston is hardened in an over prior to machining. Then in lathe machine, the rough edges are out and smooth profile is obtained by means of running operation. Finishing process. At this stage of finishing process include drilling oil holes in gudgeon pin bosses and oil ring grooves, cutting slots in the skirts, wall relieving and crank relieving. Grinding. This process involves the final size being machined on the piston. Reaming. This is the final machining process which involves the piston being placed in the both of oil and ream to reach the final size required. At this stage, we finalize the size of the piston, and final size of a piston is obtained at this stage. The next and last stage is pin fitting and final inspection. At this stage, the piston is cleaned, then fitted with gudgeon pin, and size and category stamped on the piston, and then sent to dispatch. This is how we um, make piston by using casting method. This is this is the short video I have available. First, they poured the molten metal on the mold. Then they removed the casting. After then they put for quenching process. Then they cut the ring grooves on the lathe machine. Then they drill a gudgeon pin hole by using reaming method, and oil holes are also drilled by using drilling machine. And this is the final size is done by using grinding method. This is how we make the piston by using casting. Then our next manufacturing process for piston is forging method. The piston begins in this process the piston begins as a 9 feet long solid aluminum rod as shown in this diagram. Then these rods are cut by using
Slugs, the length of
into slugs
which
as
can be
shown in this
changed by
diagram.
adjusting the feeder machine.
Then punch. A punch press and die are preheated while the slug moves through an oven heating into the same temperature as the punch press. The slug is then removed from the oven and placed into the punch. After cutting slugs, after cutting rod into a slug, these slugs are preheated up to 426 degrees Celsius, and this temperature is approximately same temperature as the punch press. And then this slug is then placed into the punch, and the pressure is up to 2000 tons is applied on the slug and basic shape of the piston is obtained. Due to this process, there is lots of heat generated, so the piston must be air cooled for an hour. After air cooled, this piston is again placed in oven twice. First time at higher temperature to strengthen the metal, and second time at lower temperature to stabilize. Then respin holes and oil control holes. A lathe is then used to cut excess metal from the basis form of the piston, taking it closer to the finished shape. Tiny holes are then drilled into the sides to create the oil passage for the piston. The same lathe then impresses three rings into the top of the piston. These rings or grooves help the piston glide and allow it from an airtight seal. A large hole is then drilled through both sides of the piston. At this stage of stage of the forging manufacturing method, first we drill oil holes on the surface of the piston. Then we cut the other three rings, that is two are compression rings and one is oil ring, on the surface of the piston. Then one large hole are drilled on the side both sides of the piston to attach gudgeon pin. Then milling machine. A milling machine then shaves up to a couple of centimeters of offside each of the piston, where large holes were drilled for the respin insertion. Another milling machine takes some more metal off of the area where three rings were formed earlier, bringing the piston one step closer to its final form. At this stage, the extra material available on the piston surface is removed to reduce the weight of the piston, then finishing the job. Next, the grinding process is carried out to give the crown shape required according to the design. Another lathe shaves a few more millimeters of the top, allowing the piston to expand when heat builds up inside of it. The holes created for the wrist pins are then put through a machine which smooths them, allowing the wrist pin to fit comfortably. Finally, the piston sprayed by hot deionized water, removing any lubricant or oil gathered through the manufacturing process. After they are dry, they are ready to use. Here, first the crown shape required according to the design is cut by using milling machine. Then the sharp edges are smooth, and after then holes are created for wrist pins. Finally, it is placed in deionized water for removing lubricant or oil gathered through the manufacturing process. Likewise, our piston is ready by using manufacturing method, forging manufacturing method. Here first like this is a short video of forging method. First we cut the slugs, then preheated up to 426 degrees Celsius and forged. After then air cooled, then we put into the oven for 2 times. This is the first finishing cut. Then oil holes are drilled. These are the three rings. Three ring grooves are cut. After then, this is the gudgeon pin hole are drilled. Then this is the milling process where we excess material is cut, and this portion is called as crown of the piston. Here, the final shape of the crown is given by using milling machine, and the sharp edges are smooth at last. This is how a piston is ready by using forging manufacturing method. We use two methods for manufacturing. One is casting and second is forging, but there is a difference between casted piston and forged piston. Generally, in casted piston, generally these pistons are used for and low speed engines. These pistons are thick and heavy, and they are bad heat resistance. And about forged pistons, they are used for high speed engines. They are light in weight, and their resistance of heating higher compared to the casting process. Lastly, I conclude that the manufacturing piston has been successfully produced by silicon magnesium based aluminum alloy. The durability of piston is increased with super forging, and lightweight piston can be produced. The higher accuracy piston can be achieved better than CNC machining process. And also, which manufacturing process we have to use for which pistons, and according to the manufacturing process used, there are various applications also, and which materials we have to use for pistons. It also I conclude from this ISC. Thank you so much for listening me. Visit again. Thank you.